Hey there, I'm Rod Yates. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Humans of Music, a Jaxsta podcast. Each episode, I talk to a music creator or industry professional about their life and career, the ups and downs of their journey, and the lessons they've learned along the way. And my guest today is multi-platinum singer-songwriter Dean Lewis. So Dean is one of those classic overnight success stories that was actually years in the making. At one point, he was rejected by every single record company in Australia until one day, after spending years in his bedroom writing songs, he finally got his lucky break when one of Savage Garden's managers heard his demo tape and signed him. From there, he started writing songs for other people before releasing his debut single Waves in 2016. It was a hit, but it wasn't until 2018 single Be Alright that things went really crazy. It achieved double platinum status in America and went 11 times platinum in Australia, sending Dean on a whirlwind schedule of touring as he supported his 2019 debut album, A Place We Knew. For a guy from Sydney who'd only done 5 shows before heading overseas, it was a steep learning curve, one that Dean talks about throughout this interview. He also talks about his upbringing and path into music, his love for Oasis and the Kooks, his issues with anxiety, and much more. But we started our chat by talking about Dean's latest single, Falling Up, which is a taste of his upcoming second album. From what I understand, the song was inspired by the success of your debut album and of singles like Waves and Be Alright.
Yeah.
But then realizing that success didn't necessarily make you happy.
Yes.
And there's a line in this, well, there are a couple of lines in the song I want to talk to you about, but the first one I'll start with is, I thought I'd be happy, but I'm barely breathing. At what point did it dawn on you that was the case? Was there a moment or was it a gradual realization?
You know, I think it was everything. And I know that I sound like a world-class whinger about this because it's like, people have real problems and you're whinging about, but it's the real thing. You know, people get messed up by a big song and they go down lots of different paths. And my path was really distress and anxiety about good things. You know what I mean? I guess the first time I realized something was wrong, probably actually around the first time I did Ellen. Like when I got told I was doing Ellen, I was in LA and
when is this?
This was probably 2019, Be Alright was just pumping. Early 2019, it was number one in Australia, or it had been, and it was starting to grow in America. And then I got told I'm on Ellen. And so this is an example of how my brain operates. It was like, okay, you're on Ellen in a week. All right, well, that whole week is gone because the anxiety, don't screw it up. I have to practice. And everything is leading up to this moment. Everything over the last 4 years is leading up to a moment for me. It's whether it's a show tonight, it's like, well, you can't relax because you got the show on later. You can't have a drink and relax with your friends because you're going to lose your voice. You can't go out and see the town because you've got a show. It was always waiting for the next thing. But I guess the first moment for me was probably Ellen, but it was all these little moments that were always coming that would then mean that I'd lived anxiously throughout the day to get to that point. And when I got to it and did it, there was a moment of relaxation. Oh, great. You have a night off. And then it's the next day. It's like, oh, now you're doing this. And for some artists, they might be super calm and confident. But someone who's anxious like me, it was just difficult because there was always something. There's always something coming.
Is that anxiety something you've always had?
I think so. I think I definitely have noticed lately that I think my anxiety is probably a lot more than the normal person. I think I've had it since I was young. I also think part of it is also why I can do what I do at a decent level. Like I can write songs because my brain is finding solutions scouring the world to find a line for a song, or my brain will just keep ticking away on something until I finish it. So it really helps with songwriting because I'm always thinking of ideas and I'm very ADD, very intense, always moving, talk fast, do things fast. But I think that positive translates to a bit of a negative when it comes to some of those other things where my brain won't stop thinking about the thing that's coming up. And so Falling Up was actually a bit of, to be honest, me probably diagnosing the problem, not solving it. I remember when Falling Up came out, I was like, look, don't tell me about how this goes. Just don't tell me. I'll just leave it. We'll put it out. It'll be, when I put Beer out, I was like, it's got to be number one. And then as soon as I put Falling Up out, I was like, a week later, the label's like, we showed it to radio. And I was like, what'd they say? You know what I mean? Like that side, it's so quick. It so quickly comes back.
Well, because I was going to say, you always, we've spoken at points throughout the years, and you had always struck me as someone who was very driven and very focused on succeeding and having as many people as possible listen to your music.
Yep.
So that's quite a big mind shift for you to then be going, let's just put it out. Don't tell me about it. So did you have Was it becoming problematic, your obsession with how many streams you were getting or how many, was it becoming an issue?
It was. I mean, to be honest, yeah. So you say that thing about drive. It's like, and now I still am that way. I'm just like, I'm aware of it. I think following up is the conscious awareness of this and going, all right, so this is a thing. And even though I'm still kind of in that mode. I think the stream thing is tough, man. Because when you get your first million streams, I saw a post I did a few years ago when Waves hit 1 million. I was like, I wrote it on a piece of paper. I got my brother to. He has better handwriting. And I remember I posted it. I was like, I got 1 million streams. And now, Be All Right streams, I think, over 1 million a day, every day.
Wow.
Across a few platforms, maybe even one point. So it's every day. The numbers don't make any sense anymore. But it is exciting because it's like a game. It's like everything in life sort of with TikTok and Instagram. It's all more numbers. It's almost a form of gambling and watching it grow and the dopamine hit. But it really is, and I knew this from a while ago, but I have done some things to combat it now. But if you're looking out, and this is what following up was about really, if you're looking out, you're looking at numbers, you're not looking in. You're not creating. Mm-hmm. So the more you're looking out and looking back, because you've got to be looking back because it exists. It's present and past because those numbers are from yesterday. The numbers don't update. So it's like you're looking at the past. And if you're doing that and you're obsessed with it, you're not creating. And there's always going to be an element, I think, of looking back. But if you're doing it 80%, then you've only got 20% capacity to move forward and write. So for me, I think I'm always like at least 50% looking back, but I'm sort of minimizing that slowly, bit by bit.
You mentioned there are some things you've done to combat that.
Yeah.
What are they?
So I write in the mornings, I journal a lot. So I try to write down, I have this to-do list of things that really helps. I try to do it in the morning and that gives me a few hours. The other thing is actually just be consciously aware of when I get caught in these loops. I call them loops. When you're just browsing Instagram and then you go on, you have this little rotation of a little routine of TikTok, blah, blah. And I'm doing this other thing which has really helped, which is, so with my socials now, I check at 12 for half an hour and then I check at 6 for half an hour. So it's an hour a day. And then I just force myself to not be on there. And that has helped so much because, when you start, I don't know about you, but if you're stuck in this, you're constantly checking it, you're not living, you're just in this loop and it's so addictive. And now with TikTok, with the amount of amazing content, it's just tailored to you.
Yeah.
It just can suck you in. And I've combated that with this two times a day. And I've been doing it. I've pretty much stuck to it for the last couple of months and it's really helpful for someone like me.
Okay. Yeah. There's another line in the song, which I'm going to find. You sing about being alone in your bedroom and the walls caving in.
Yes.
Did that happen?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you finish a show and you go back to the bus or the hotel room and it's like your ears are ringing, and I know it doesn't sound like a winter, but it's like, you're in America and you've been on the road 4 years, 3 years or 2 years and you don't. There was no break. My voice was going all the time, and so I feel like I was getting sick. My eyes were messed up, and it was just, it was a hard time. And you go back, and then I'd look online, and you'd see a negative comment or something, and that I really struggled with that. I think people don't realize that you are human and they can, so for something like that. And it's also weird because I'd see it in a sea of good. There'd be so many good comments or people, but you get the one odd person who's just a hater or something like that. And I struggled with that a little bit, but life isn't all bad. I do sound like it is, it's actually pretty damn good, but but following up is about this stuff. So I guess
And again, so not to harp on this, but there must have been a big awakening for you because presumably in the years leading up to this success, as you're writing songs, as you're dreaming of what success is going to be like, you have an idea in your head about what's going to happen when I reach 1 million streams, 1 billion streams. And it sounds like it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I think I was lucky enough to break through this illusion of when I get this thing, and that's different to everyone. But for me, it was a progression of okay, when I was young, I used to get up and I was excited about getting a job. You know what I mean? I'm going to work I got a job at a factory and I was like, I'm going to make $600 a week. You know what I mean? I was like, I can rent a place. And that kind of transformed into, what if I got a record deal? What if I got a big song in Australia? What if I had a big song in America? And I got to break through the biggest illusion of all, of having Be All Right was 2 times platinum in America and it all around the world. It just blew up. And then I was like, okay, all the things that I'd written down that I'd wanted, I got all those things. And I think that there is, for most people, and for me before, there is that unbelievable goal that is just so out of the realm of possibility, that is such a small chance that it's like winning the lottery. You know, you don't actually win it. You don't have a big song in America. What? But I think I was always living, and I think a lot of people like this, you live to, and you think that this big thing is so unattainable, but so you never get there. So you're always in this illusion of, well, if I had that, people would like me and I'd like me. You know what I mean? And then I got it. I got to have that. I got to break the illusion and go, oh, you're 2 times platinum. And then you just like go, oh, cool. And you have a celebration, and then it's just back. Life's normal. Right. There's nothing. There's no difference. And then it's like, well, where's the next song? And then it's like, can you do it again? And then it's like, we got to get back to the studio, and it's great creating. I'm fulfilled. I'm excited. But that's literally it. I think this is just something that was a huge moment for me, and just going, okay, well, yeah, I have these things, but I still don't like me that much, and you know what I mean? Like, I haven't developed all the other things that I think a lot of my friends developed, actually, because they all have marriages and relationships, and I lost touch with friends, and because I was on the road, I missed weddings, and they seem very happy, and they're building this really nice life, and I was just building this career, and it's like, that's important, but it's just me realizing I got to start balancing some of these other things and developing some of these other skills that I just was not able to, because I was so 100% focused on this is it.
And is that where that line comes from? I hate the man I've turned into?
That line actually comes from, God, I was actually really worried about putting that in the song because it's such a intense line. But that line's about actually everything I'm talking about. Because when I first started, I was so excited about everything and like, oh my God. And now I'm whinging about good things. This is what I realized. And I went, so that line is about me going, I am this guy that's worrying even about the good things in my life. So you got to stop, man. And I think that was a big moment for me, and is that realization of like, when you're starting to stress about the good, you know, you got to make some changes. So yeah.
So let's think about some of the good side of your success so far. Some of the pinch me moments. You must have been in situations where dream come true situations, or meeting people who perhaps had been idols, or just what are some of those circumstances that you think back to, even with all the anxiety aside, and you just go, wow, that was incredible?
I wrote a song with Martin Garrix, and so I spent 3 weeks, maybe actually a month in total, just hanging at his penthouse in Amsterdam, because we were writing a song, and he has studios in his house. And so I was actually on the road, and then I came off, and I was like writing this song with him, and then doing shows and living, like being in his house and seeing that world of like, hold on, he has a pool in his house, and it was just, that's a pinch me moment, but it's also not, it wasn't a moment where I'm going, like, he's just a normal dude. He's a really cool dude. And like, yeah, that's another thing. You always think that, oh, there's this, like, it's all magical, but it's just like two guys, we're still having a crack trying to write a song. We don't know what we're doing, and we're just trying to make it work. Yeah. That was a cool moment. One big moment for me was actually signing an American record deal. Like when I got picked up by Island Records in the US around the time of Waves, I remember that being a big moment, going, I just signed a record deal in America. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, you know, when you have a team that's pushing you. I think looking back now, like when the song, I think it was number 1 on Hot AC radio in America. And now I can appreciate how difficult that is. When I was the cover of Today's Top Hits, now I'm thinking back, I did not realize all this, how hard this stuff is to get. And you always think that it's going to be easy to get it the next time. Everyone has this problem. When you have one big song, you're like, oh, and especially so early, because the Waves was big in Australia, and then put out my EP, did well, and then Be Right came out, and that went gigantic. So I'm going, this is easy. What the hell? All I have to do is put a song out, and it does well. It's not like that, you know. The next couple of songs, they did well, and you know, they didn't do what Be Right did, and that's actually given me some time. Like now, looking back at my first album, I'm going, why? Okay, interestingly, there's 3 songs that have stuck around that are still really streaming as Half a Man, Waves, and Be Right. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So they're really personal to me and universally loved from my fan base. And they talk to people on this universal level, but they're very personal. And I was like, that's interesting. And some of the other songs where I'd maybe, they're real, but, you know, sometimes you'll add a line here and there, you know, to make the story develop a bit more. And I was like, interesting. Those are the ones that stay around. So on this new album that I'm working on, I'm like, okay, that's the target. It's not like, you know, I'm going for it. And I want at least 6 of those. And because they're hard to write, where it all lines up, meaning, personal, melody, and lyrics, you know?
That's what I was going to ask about, how everything that you've been through so far, has informed the songs you're writing now? Because you mentioned that there is that expectation. You get a double platinum single in America. Where's the next one?
Yeah.
How are you writing? How do you push that out of your head, or have you been able to push that out of your head as you're writing these new songs?
Yeah. Really good question, because I'm writing this new song now, just on my own at home, and I kept overthinking it, going, like, okay, how did I write Be Alright? Like, and listening to the verse of Be Alright, going, okay, do I need to, put a bit of that in? And then I just had this realization. I was actually watching this interview with the lead singer of the Goo Goo Dolls, of all people.
Right.
What's his name? Johnny
Yeah.
Resnick. And he was talking about how when people talked about Iris and, why don't you write one of those? He said, if I could, I would, dude. And I'm like, but he also said something that really resonated with me and changed my perspective. He said that, whatever's real now, he was like writing about what's real to him. And I was like, that's true. Like, does it feel good to me? Is it real? Then do that and move on to the next thing. And because there is that pressure, although I actually do think that I have, I know every artist says this, but I mean it. And I think the whole team, we're very excited about the songs to come. Like, we're all very excited. And there's a couple there, like you said, like a lot of the other old songs, we didn't say this, but like it's not all is I love you and I miss you. There is a few of those, but there's a lot more depth to it. There's songs about my family, about how I receive love, how I feel about myself, a lot more personal things following up about success and how that sort of changed me and stuff like that. But there's a lot more introspection and like waves and stuff like that. And I think it's gone up a level. Okay. So I'm excited for people to hear.
So it's not a road album? It's not
Life on the Road?
Another night in a hotel?
No. You know what? I remember I got Zane Lowe gave me. He's funny. He gave me some. I didn't realize that was the thing. And then I was at an interview, and I had this song called "The Place We Knew" on my album, and he was like going, "Oh, dude, that's such a road song." And I was like, interesting. No, I don't know that there actually is there any road songs. I think "Falling Up" is probably as close to road song as it gets.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's probably that's a cliche. Is that like a cliche that singers?
Kinda.
Yeah.
You spend years on the road. Well, you write about what you know.
You do. Yeah.
I'm going to write about the road.
Yeah, and no one can relate to it. You know what I mean? It's like lost touch.
So let's go all the way back to the beginning. So you were born and raised in Sydney.
Yes.
Whereabouts in Sydney?
Camaray. It's just over the Harbour Bridge. Really nice place. And that's where I was born. We kind of grew up there, went to school and stuff like that. And then was writing songs in my bedroom.
Yeah, there was some time before you started writing songs in your bedroom. I mean, what kind of kid were you prior to that?
Kind of kid was I? I think I was always good at things that if it was a game or sports, I picked it up quite naturally, which kind of screwed me a little bit later in life. Before I got signed, things always kind of came easily. I know I sound like a dickhead here, but things just came easy. Like, not so much with like mathematics, but just with if I was into it, I was good at figuring out, how like what are the simple things to get to the try, what are people doing? And I think I'm good at kind of figuring things out like that. And but I guess I was a normal kid. I just was playing basketball. I was like the basketball captain at one year. I was like, I was really into my sports. And to be honest, I was really into Oasis and I got really into them maybe like at the last few years of high school. But I wasn't a muso kid. I didn't really connect with those people.
Sport was it?
Sport. It was more sport, and I just thought it was kind of like muso people. That wasn't like me. I wasn't the kid who was like studying theory and really into that stuff. It was more. I really get excited by like a challenge. Right. Like that's my thing. Is like, all right, so whatever it is, sport or whatever it is, and that turned into songs. It's like, well, I can do that. Let me see if I can do that better than that, or can I do that as well? That's it. I really am challenge based in my mind.
Competitive.
Very competitive, yeah, very.
So were you a good student? What would your school reports routinely say about you?
I think I got like 75% or 73% at the end of my thing, like whatever the thing was. So
that's all right.
It was okay. I was always okay, and I think the feedback I always got was doesn't apply himself, and and I really struggled to apply myself. I mean, I've never been one, even in school. I've always had this thing. I don't know if it's laziness or maybe it's smart. I don't know. And I do it with songwriting now. I don't like filling my mind with all the tiny technical details of anything, whether it's the English language or mathematics or songwriting. I like to just learn the base level because I'm lazy. And then with the base level of whatever subject it was, now I'm specifically music, if you don't know all the answers, then you can just create a bed and you have to know the core of stuff. And then you can create a bed and then you can let your brain be creative over the top of it. I always found, especially with music, that if I knew all the details and the theory, that I would know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I love not knowing where to go. And so that's kind of been something that I had since school with subjects and stuff like that. If I was really into something, I'd dive in, but if I wasn't, just whatever.
So if you weren't a muso growing up, does that suggest you didn't come from a musical household?
I actually did though. Like, I mean, my dad he had like the CD rack, and he had like 5 guitars. He had like a Fender Stratocaster, this blue one. He had a couple of Rickenbackers, and we were obsessed with the Beatles. Like, he had these 4 Beatles dolls, and he was always like, I had 3 brothers, and we all were one Beatle. I was George, I think. And he always would show me the guitars and this is yours when you're older. I got guitar lessons when I was like 11 or 12, and then Dad showed me the bass. I didn't really enjoy it, but so I had that rhythm and I could play a little bit, and Dad was always playing, and I liked it. But and then I got into Oasis. That was when it really hit me. But yeah, I guess musical family. My dad is very into music. He's not exceptionally he's not like a gun player. He's like a decent rhythm guitarist, you know, who loves researching guitars and stuff like that. But he kind of gave me the love for music and also taught me the chords and stuff like that. So
what did your parents do?
My dad was actually a cinematographer. So he was the guy, like the cameraman, but like he would shoot like TV shows, and he was very good at what he did. He was one of the number one guys, and that's actually how I got into my job after school, and I guess after like living for a little bit, I became a sound recordist with the boom pole.
Yeah,
I got that job. It's actually a really hard job to get because of him. Like, he would choose the guy, and he's like, okay, come on.
Yeah,
he didn't really want me to do it because I wasn't very good at it. I sucked, man. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was a means to an end. It was like, just do this to get money while I kind of start chipping away at music. You know?
Yeah. And I do want to ask you about that, but there is one other thing I want to ask you about, which is, I guess, part of your folklore, which is, of course, representing Australia at the World Cyber Games with your brother Sean.
Man, I was absolute, like, I was the god of Halo 2. That was my peak. Like, that's the perfect example of when I get into something, it's all encompassing and all consuming. And that game, Halo 2, I just was on Xbox, and we would just play every single day, like after school or whatever. And we basically beat out everyone in Australia and went to Singapore, and then we came 5th. We lost to the Canadian team, but we beat the UK team, which was at the time, it was huge. And it was just like, that was it, man. And my parents used to say, because we used to play a game called Half-Life, and they'd say, you're only living half a life, like go outside. And which was the total wrong advice, because now gaming, back then there was no streaming, and now gaming is everything. And that's where, like, if we stuck to it, that might have been, the thing. But
do you regret that? Like, is that something that you could have moved into?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm glad they said it, because then I found music and Oasis, and then I was just on a different thing. Like, when I found it, and I was like, and then I started writing songs, and I'm like, the first song I wrote, I remember it was like I wish that one day I could see people across the ocean. Da, 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 da. And I remember showing my mom, and she goes, "Oh, that's good, dear." But I knew it was decent, and I was like, "Wait, that's actually all right." So it was like the first thing. I was probably God, I don't even know, man. Maybe like 18, 19. Like, I started pretty late, and like, I was playing guitar. I probably sung around, but that was my first time I was trying to write a song, and it was all right, and that kind of set me off, going, "Oh, maybe I could do this."
After the break, Dean talks about the years he struggled to get a record deal, his earliest experiences playing live, and the lessons he's learned over the past few years. Welcome back to Humans of Music and my interview with Dean Lewis. So tell me about the day, I think you just came home from school and your dad puts on an Oasis live DVD. What happens?
Oh, it was just like, it was Manchester 2005. Liam Gallagher walks out with this strut, and he's got this like bucket hat from Memory On or something, this cool hat, and bucket hat, I don't know what it's called, but, and I was like, who are these dudes, man? This is so cool. And I love that, like, Noel was like there singing the songs as well, and the attitude they had. I loved how simple they were. I guess I got interested in the mystique of it all, and this is like so cool. And then I just scoured YouTube for Oasis B-sides and everything, and I was also obsessed with the Kooks. I loved the Kooks, and I have probably seen every Oasis and the Kooks unreleased songs on YouTube. There's probably a cover of me on the internet somewhere doing Stormy on YouTube. I uploaded it. I'm surprised no one's found it. I did a cover of Stormy Weather by the Kooks, and Always Where I Need to Be by the Kooks, and And I put that on YouTube under I forget what account it was, but I was just so obsessed with Oasis and the Kooks, and I loved it. It was just so cool.
Why do you think? Because it's both British bands. Do you think there was something about the British
Definitely.
music?
I love British music. I just thought that was so cool. Like, especially like Luke Pritchard, I love the hair and all that stuff. And I think the first time I did a Mahogany Sessions, this is later on before I got signed, and I had the same hair as him, and I look back at it now and I cringe because I look so bad. But I just was excited. I just loved how cool it was, and it was like a challenge. It was just like, I also loved how simply Noel wrote the songs. When I watched him play them on acoustic guitar, I was like, oh, well, he's just using the same chords, and he just puts a capo on, and he keeps his 2 fingers on the high strings, and he just moves the bass note around. I'm like, that's it. That's all you have to do, you know? And so I started doing that. Yeah.
And that comes back to that thing you were talking about earlier of you had this talent for figuring out how people do stuff.
Yes.
And then doing it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think the way that I view songwriting is, and that is exactly right, is look at Catfish and the Bottlemen. Like, go look at the Catfish and the Bottlemen song. Go watch him play it acoustically. Like, he would just hold the chords to from G to C or whatever, and it's so simple, but it's so good. And so yeah, that was it for me. It was like, anyone can do this. But obviously that developed a little bit from me going, all right, so at first when you start writing songs, it's whatever comes down is the song, whatever it is. And it's like, and you just go, cool, done, got it. And you don't realize that, okay, that melody's great, but those lyrics are just shocking. I remember I had a song, I actually went and got this I paid to get it recorded. It was called 40 Mountains, and the chorus was, I would climb 40 mountains high to look you in the eye. And I was like, the melody was huge. Like, it was a Oasis style melody, but it was just, you can't, I didn't realize at the time that you can't write that because it makes no sense and it's stupid.
Does that matter?
I mean, maybe it would be huge, but at least for me, I was like, okay. So then I got into Dancing in the Dark by I heard that song by Springsteen, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. He's writing about just walking around a room and looking himself in the mirror, and I mean, that's what he's writing about in the verses. There's a lot more. There's a lot more depth to the simplicity in the chorus and stuff like that, I think. But the verses were him just talking about walking around the room, and I was like, oh, that's how you do it. And so I developed that over time. Was like, okay, lyrics are as important as the melody, and that was the second thing that kind of slotted in. And then when that connected, things started moving a bit quicker.
You mentioned recording a song earlier, and I know that early on you did a demo tape, and I understand that you sent it out. Is it true that you sent it out to 30 managers and you just got no response?
I got no response.
Like zero.
Think there was one reply that said, hey, can you send me another song? I didn't have another song. So, I mean, none that was good, and no one was interested. I sent it out to everyone in Australia, and no one was interested in signing me. And
did you follow up with them?
Yeah, it's such a long time ago. It's hard to remember, but yeah, no one was interested really, man. And
there must be a lot of A&R people in Australia with egg on their face.
Yeah, probably. But you know what? It's all changed now. It's you know, with TikTok. I mean, look, and this is a bit of a side note, but the A&R game is very different now because I think in Australia, and maybe around the world, everyone is so focused on a certain station or a playlist or something. Everyone wants to get that, and it's like, and then this is me as well. My whole career, even now, we're all focused, and I'm like, I've been like realizing with TikTok, I'm going, hold on a second. Everyone's still focused on this old way of doing things, especially in Australia. And it's like, wait, but you can post something on TikTok, and there's never been an app like this before, and I'm literally learning it and blown away. I posted a 15-second video of myself duetting someone who did my song, and I had 2 million views or something in a day. And the music video that we spent money on has about the same. You know what I mean? Like, the world has changed with this app, especially for musicians. And I'm like, you know, people are still, and same with me, we're all stuck in this, trying to do these things, but there's no gatekeepers on TikTok. You can post a chorus and have a following in a night. And I think it's like a gold rush of development for so many artists because there's no gatekeepers on it. It's just, it's just if you're good, you get found. Yeah. And I know we're just at the starting stage of this, but it's really blowing my mind. And for A&Ring, obviously, I mean, so many great artists, they just pop up and it's like, I think people are just like, do you want a record deal? Do you want a record deal?
Wow.
But that's what I'm like. When people ask me for advice lately, I'm like, dude, don't worry about anything. Just get on TikTok and start posting your stuff. You can build huge followings in very short periods of time.
Yeah, right. So you send that demo out, you get no response, but then sometime down the track, you find yourself on a boat with Leonie Connolly, who's Savage Garden's manager. You end up giving her the demo and she has a listen to it. And I believe even maybe calls you from the cab on the way home after that boat ride. Is that right? Is that
so,
right?
So sort of. One of my best mates, Matt, he passed on the demo. I remember he called me. He goes, "I'm on a boat with this girl who's a manager of like a big band. He didn't know who it was, and I'm gonna give her a link to your one of your songs. Do you mind?" I'm like, "Dude, absolutely. Like, give it to her." And she listened to it on the cab home drunk. She told me, and she called me the next day because she got my number from Matt and was like, she was like, "Okay, we have to meet," and basically met me on the Monday because they're so Leone and Rob Connolly are the best. Like, they find people fast and they're onto it before anyone else, and they get you quick. Like, she signed me very quickly. She's like, "We're going to sign you publishing and you can write songs for other people." And I was like, "Yeah." And they really wanted me to develop into my own career, but I kind of I was sort of into songwriting for other people at the start. I was like, "I'll just do this and see how we go." I remember the lawyer, he was like, "Are you sure you want to sign this deal with them?" But I was probably 25 or 26. And I'm like, most people have their first album out at 20. Like, I'm late in the game.
You felt that at that age.
Absolutely.
25.
20, I might have been 26. I think I did feel late in the game because I know how long it takes to get the songs. And then, and it did. Like, I can't even remember when I put my first song out. But I knew this was my way in. And I didn't play my way in. I was doing open mic nights at Balmain. But I knew this was my way in. So I signed my publishing to them, and they didn't give me any advance, but I knew it was the best deal. I even knew then it was the best deal I'd ever signed in my life. And it still is to this day, because Leone basically got me management, got me record deal. And although that was kind of hard to get a record deal because no one really wanted to sign me. I was playing Be Alright. I was playing Be Alright in the showcases, and no one was interested apart from Mike Taylor. So
Mike Taylor of Universal Music Australia.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went in with Mike, and I'd showcased to, I think, every label in Australia at that point. No. Didn't know what to do with me. And I was playing Half a Man, Be Alright, bunch of other songs. And Mike Taylor came in and goes, he literally just sits down, he's American, he goes, "I haven't signed anyone in a year because I told myself I'm not going to sign anyone unless they have the song. And that Be Alright is the song. And so I want to sign you." And all of a sudden, one other label who was sort of interested, but they'd offered me $0 again. It was we got offered a $0 advance, and they kind of came back, and they were interested, and I was like, I considered it, but I followed through with the I've always followed this through with, same with Leone. They're not, they believed in me the most. So Mike believed in me, and I was like, well, yeah, the money on this deal, like, I'm not making, like, it's not like a huge, it was like I can't remember what the advance was, but it was like a small advance, but it was still good for me at that time. And so I was like, I absolutely want to go with you. And I went with them. And that was the best decision I ever made, because luckily, with Mike A&Ring, he's great, but with Nicole Richards heading up the strategy of it all, how she did things with how she, because Waves came out and was kind of just doing nothing, and how she strategized that onto these stations. And then we got the Riverdale sync, which ended up actually changing everything. I think the video went from, we put the music video out for Waves that had like 10,000 views. And then it was on the season finale of Riverdale, I think, this TV show that was blowing up 4 years ago. I think it still is, but and it was a really pivotal scene. And then it went from 10,000 views to 1 million in a week. And then the song started going, and it was really, really interesting and a cool time.
And by this point, just to backtrack slightly, when you kept getting no from Be Alright, which went on to be a huge hit, and it was a song that you knew was a good song.
Yeah.
How badly is it denting your confidence?
Oh, it was horrible. I remember after one showcase, we were sitting down and they started talking about like another artist right in front of me. Like we're all sitting down and they were just talking about, and I'm like, oh, okay. And it does dent your confidence, because
like they wanted to sign this other artist.
They were talking about other artists. They were talking about signing, and they just had this big release from another artist who was a huge artist on their label, and they were talking about that. And you kind of sit there going, oh, I sort of feel like, yeah, maybe I'm not good enough. I think that the thing was, they all liked my songs. They just didn't know what to do with me, because it was alternative enough and pop enough. Maybe just enough in a bad way. It was both. And I think in Australia at the time, maybe this is a still thing. It was, they didn't know what to do with me. Like, can they get me on the cool station, or can they, or would be able to get on the other station? Like, it was this kind of, they didn't know where I was placed, which is interesting, because I knew the song was good. I knew Be Alright was special. I was like, so it was kind of hard, but I was never one of those people that thought, like, I was never going in there going, oh, dude, these guys are idiots. They don't know I'm going to be a star. I'm never like that. You know, I remember when I first started showcasing for like even publishing companies and stuff like that. After a while, my hands were still shaking at that point when I was playing, because it was like you're sitting there with the head of a massive company, and you rush through the songs as well. You're rushing through them because I haven't performed that much as well. Like I'd probably really just learnt piano maybe a year earlier.
And you wanted it so badly at this point as well.
I wanted it badly, and you know. The fear is so overwhelming at the start. Even when I remember when I got the first call for the first showcase, my manager called me and she said, "This company wants to showcase you." And I said, "No." I said, "When?" She goes, "Tomorrow." I said, "No way." I said, "There's no way." But I'd read enough books and biographies or whatever or something to know that people who do well, they do it even when they're not ready. And so I called her back because I had that thought. I was sitting in my car in Crow's Nest, I remember, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I called her back and I said, "All right, let's do it." Even though I was so impressed, I had no right in being there. I sucked at keys at the time. I hadn't performed that much, but I did it. Didn't get it, but that's something I've taken with me throughout my life. Is ever since that moment of no matter what it is, yes, I will do it, and I'll figure out how to do it, and I'll live with the stress for a week, but I'll never say no to those opportunities, because the magic has happened for me in the moments where I've felt like I'm not ready, but I do it anyway. That's when the world seems to open up.
Yeah. And you took quite an interesting route in that, you know, I suppose the very traditional Australian route is gig, tour the country, put up the miles in the van. But you chose instead to sit in your room and just write songs and write and write and write. And I believe wrote somewhere in the vicinity of about 100 songs.
Yes.
But then when Waves takes off, and you get a deal and you have to then get on the road and start touring. How big a learning curve was that?
Huge. I think I'd done 5 open mic nights, you know, with my guitar. And there was one moment when I did the open mic night, I'll just say quickly, I did it. I played my best song at the time. And at the best moment of the song, in the bridge, the bar stopped talking and the bartender turned around. And that was the moment for me where I went, this was before I had any interest from any record labels or management or Leone. That's when I knew, okay, no, she didn't turn around for anyone else when they were playing. And I went, and it was a moment I was like, oh, that's an addictive feeling. You know, I was like, that's cool.
Do you remember the song?
It was a song called I Want You Back. It was a song that I put this demo of it out and then took it down once I got a deal. But it kind of didn't really, got 20,000 views on YouTube, and I wouldn't play it now, but back then it was my best song. But yeah, so I'd done 5 gigs. I hadn't had the miles, but the learning curve was huge. I went to London with, my dad came with me. I had a manager, and we were looking for some this is before Mahogany Sessions, and I went over there and played a gig in a pub, and I played for 30 minutes, and this was my first pub gig, and it was in London. I took my piano on the train with my dad, and
this is your first pub gig anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world. My first proper pub gig, and I was practicing in the hotel room, and
you've got your deal and your management by this point?
I don't have a record deal at this point, but I have management, and we're trying to get but we're trying to get this PR company to support me.
Okay.
And she came to this gig, the PR girl, and everyone was talking so loud you couldn't hear me. And my dad was sitting there; he was so upset and angry at everyone. And I remember just being like, but I wasn't prepared to manage a crowd. I still, to be honest, don't. I do take it personally still when people are not. It's like when people are talking, I'm always like, but it was brutal, but it was learn quick. You know what I mean? Figure it out, accept that this is reality, and keep going. Just keep going, no matter what happens.
Because that's what you learn, isn't it? That is I guess that Australian thing of, and I guess bands anywhere in the world, but particularly Australian bands in the 70s and 80s, is that idea of playing in front of sweaty crowds who can be ferocious at point, and that's where you learn your stage legs.
Exactly.
So that's a big thing to come to terms with, that first show, and
it's brutal.
Particularly when you say, you paint the picture of getting on the train with your keyboard and you've got your dad, and it just sounds like a very sweet event.
Yeah.
And then you're unleashed on the wolves. It
was brutal. And then the band, there was an Australian band randomly playing after me, but they were full band. But, when I walked back into the change room, they were they were all really supportive and stuff, which I thought was cool. And you said out something else about the songs. Yeah, I did focus on the songs. For me, the voice doesn't matter. It's all about the songs. And so that's why I knew that was my way in, was just writing really good songs. And it's still something I actually think to this day, this is how I view the world. And maybe it's I need a challenge. And I have to write songs 4 times as good to have half or a quarter of the success. And then I have to work 5 times, whatever, as hard as everyone else to have the success, that's how I view the world through my eyes. Whether it's true or not, that's how I view it. So even back then, it was like, just right, really be so undeniably good that they can't say no to you. And that even when I was like learning, when I was preparing for these shows, I would practice so much in my hotel room and try to do it so if I was nervous, I could just close my eyes and I could play through it because I was so prepared. Because for me, the way to cure anxiety, performance anxiety specifically, is just action, just practicing, just practice. That meant if I practiced, I could sleep because like I wouldn't be thinking. There's nothing that will motivate someone more than the fear of public embarrassment.
So what else are the big learnings? Because you said, you spent about 2 or 3 years on the road.
Yeah.
Baptism by fire, having only played 5 shows up until that point.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Yeah.
What else did you learn? Like, firstly, at what point did you feel comfortable? And then what did you learn to help you get to that point?
I realized for live stuff, like performing hasn't been natural for me. Like I don't think I have never needed the attention like that. I don't need to be the center of attention. And it was always about the songs. So performing was always secondary. And it was like, okay, well, at first it was like, oh, well, I have to do this, but I want to do the songs. And then this is part of it. Although with COVID now, I have realized how important and how much I miss it. So it's a side note. But the big learning was if I realized when I was on stage, because I didn't go to a lot of gigs. I don't like big crowds. It's not really my vibe as well. So I really had to learn fast. And I guess I learned a few things from watching people. And one thing was if you smile at the crowd and they smile back at you and you feel like you're connected to them and you don't feel like it's this weird gap.
Right.
Another thing that I learned that's more of a deeper personal level is the importance of not being agreeable and saying no a lot. I say no a lot. I've always said no a lot. People will always tell you, and it's happened since the start, and maybe just because I was older when I got signed, a little bit older than most people, was I say no if something doesn't, and because I had success quite quickly with Waves, the first song did really well. I was like, okay, well, someone will say, use this version of this song, or you should do this with this song. I listen, but if I don't agree, I say no. And I think I see it in a lot of other artists when they're starting out, especially, they think, well, this person has this job because they have that job there. They've been doing this for years. They know the answer. And I just knew I've never failed on someone else's terms, which I've liked. I think that one of my biggest fears has always been, since Waves, compromising myself for what someone else says that I should do, whether it's on a song or whatever, what you should wear. Wear this. And then you fail because of that, because of them. And then they move on with their other 100 people that they'll be working with, and you're left with their failure and that's a kind of regret that I haven't dealt with, but I just know in the back of my head that would be something that would be so hard to come to terms with. Like I'd rather make the choice and then it'd be wrong, because then I can go, at least it was me,
Yeah, and that's where I guess the power of having a song like Be Alright or having success on that level comes from, because you have a little bit more power now to start saying no. What about on the we spoke about the actual performance side of touring, but what about the physical and mental side of touring, having to get your head around that and having to adapt to that? How did you find that, and how did you come to deal with it?
Yeah, it was manic. With Be Alright, I guess it was, for me, it was just, okay, this is starting to bubble away now. It's blowing up. And we've got a Switzerland radio station. There's I remember Nicole messaging me saying, we just got added to a radio station in Switzerland. That's a first for me. I was like, oh, cool. Germany. Okay. And then we're going to Germany. We're going to Switzerland, and we're going everywhere. And at the same time, I'm recording my album. I'm trying to get this together. And then there's big moments, big shows. You need to finish this album. You need to write new songs. So it's just manic. It was manic. And I guess the weird thing, the hardest point was probably, like, I'm touring America on a bus and I've got 12 people with me and I'm burning money as well. The other thing is, I'm going, when I come out at the end of this, am I going to have anything? Because the cost of having 12 people on the road was, so the back of my mind, I thought, am I doing this to end up at the end making everyone else rich? Right. And I'm just end up, but yeah, touring America, you're going through, these Wisconsin, you're going through Detroit, you're playing show, get on the bus, wake up in the morning, there's a day room. We all have a shower there, not together. As of, it's 12 dudes, we all separately have a shower, and then we go and do promo. We've got radios. I'd have 3 radio, stations that I'm hitting up in whatever city, Michigan, whatever. And I do those 3 meet and greets, and I play 3 times, probably 9 songs. Voice is scratchy and going. And then I've got interviews and then phone interviews, and then I would have a show on at night. And this is all while you're traveling. My voice is going, and it's just you're doing 3 shows a day off, and it's just it just takes a toll physically because your voice cannot, it can't keep up with that level of just constant on. You need to rest, and there is no time to rest because this is the moment. And I was aware of that. And this is like this. I'm in it, and this might never happen again. So you'd say yes to everything, and I did everything because I wanted it to do well, and it was doing well. But there is a toll because it's not healthy. I never had a problem with alcohol or anything like drugs or anything like that. I maybe have like a little shot of whiskey before I sung sometimes because it's a little loosen up and, but I would usually, after the shows, I'd pretty much just go back and be by myself and try to get some sleep. But you go back and sit on the bus and my ears would be ringing from you get the tinnitus. And I know that sounds so negative, but it really is this weird world of just chaos and panic where things come together at the last minute and you don't have a moment to yourself, but it's also amazing because this is like you've won the lottery. You got a big song, traveling and stuff like that. So I guess for me, it took a toll. I think now the lessons I've learned from that are if I get to have this chance again, and I don't know if I will. I don't know. You don't know. I know I'll be able to go overseas and tour, but I know if I have that chance again to the world opens up and I can go to Europe and play shows, hopefully at the same size or bigger, I will try to appreciate it. I will see the cities because the first time round you don't realize you're just sprinting towards the finish line, and then you get there and you realize, wait, that was it. Wait, that was it. And then you got a year off because of COVID, year and a half, and it's like, whoa, wait, was that the moment? Like that's the moment but the whole time I was just sprinting through it, trying to get to the end. So I think next time if I do it, the lessons I've learned are just enjoy it. Try to like go out and have a drink with some friends and, with the band and like chill and relax a bit and like see the town and speak to people and slow down. I think that's if I get a chance again, that's the lesson I'm going to try to learn.
That sounds like a shattering realization, that fear of going, did I just miss it?
Did I just miss it? It is. It's a terrifying thing because there are so many things that need to line up to have a big song. With Be Alright, there was no Ed Sheeran. He'd finished his cycle. Shawn Mendes, I think, had just finished his cycle. And then I think there was no real singer-songwriters apart from George Ezra, he had Shotgun out at the time, which was blowing up and very different style of song. And there was space for me to do something. The song, the timing, the song can, great songs come out all the time and do nothing. It's almost a cliche. Like, sometimes I think the problem is that everyone thinks it's a hit and then it's like, this is a hit song, and then everything needs work. You need to constantly work things. And the plan was for Falling Up, actually, when this comes out, let's go and do all the promo again, like we did with Be Alright. Because me and Nicole Richards, we went everywhere. We hit up every European country and we played to every radio station and company that would listen to us. And it really helped the song, and putting Falling Up out has literally been like putting it out on Mars. I'm doing Zooms. It is just, I didn't realize how important it was to play it to people and to see people's reactions. And yeah, you get these great comments and people saying that it's changed their lives. And oh my God, so many people have related to the meaning of it, but I don't see it. So it may as well just be it's just a YouTube comment. I don't get to feel it. And that's been a real weird thing. I'm like, I don't want to put another song out during COVID. I mean, I've actually had I've said to my team, what is the point? We all agree. What's the point of putting out music if you can't tour? Like there's no point because I am a touring artist.
Right.
So this isn't just me. It's a lot of artists are sort of struggling with this. And I think a lot of people are holding songs back.
Yep.
And I'm kind of, it's also that you don't want to be caught up in this, is it scourge? Is that the right word? When everyone just goes, the world's open, and then you're just going to have everyone, 17 albums from everybody at the same time. There's going to be a lot of noise coming out. So I think a lot of people are holding back because what's the point if you're just a radio artist? No worries, good time. But if you're a touring artist, it's like there's no point in putting it out because I can't play for my fans, and it's half the job,
How things have changed. You're now a touring artist, having never really played gigs that much before signing your deal. Just playing those. That's That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really funny. It's just
Oh, you mean
something.
going from like a...
Well, you were a songwriter.
Yes.
You wrote 100 songs. You did some open mic nights.
Yes.
That was where you thought it was.
Yes.
That's where you thought your career was, to now being a touring artist. Now you need to be on the road playing these songs.
It's a really interesting transition. Yeah, you're right. I mean, God, over 4 years, I probably played, I don't even know how many gigs I played so many gigs, but in such a short period of time, I think. So I think, yeah, the transition to that was, yeah, that's funny, going from a songwriter to being touring, and now that being such an important thing. It's like, I can't actually imagine releasing songs without that. I've realized how much I took that for granted on the last run around.
Yeah. Just to finish up, so Jaxsta is all about giving credit where credit's due. Are there people you'd give credit to for helping you get where you are today?
Oh my God, yes. Mike Taylor for signing me, and for being there and being Mike's like a genuine A&R guy. You know what I mean? Nicole Richards from Universal, the head of Ireland.
In Australia,
In Australia, she's just, man, like I just couldn't do it without her. And I know that without her, I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I was. And I don't think Be Alright would be where it was. Lily Adams from Universal is incredible. There was this girl, Cindy James, who was Ireland. She's an Australian, but she's Ireland Records in the US. Now she's not there anymore, but she was incredibly... she was so strategic and so behind Be Alright and my songs in regards to strategy with streaming platforms and stuff like that. Leonie and Rob, like, you know what I mean? Like the people that signed me, they're like, almost second parents, how much they've helped me and how much they put up with my madness. And Jim Saby, my other manager in America, he's just like amazing. Collaborators, you've got, I've worked with so many big producers. I got that opportunity after Waves blew up, and I've actually found it hasn't really worked out every time. I've really enjoyed working with Nick Atkinson and Ed Holloway in the UK. For whatever reason, we just create great stuff together, and that's important. Having a great production team that can take the songs to another level, and they understand you and they know your sound. There's an Australian producer called Dylan Nash who I've worked with a lot. There's just so many people. Simon Moore from Cobalt, you know what I mean? And the sync team from Cobalt. It takes a village. And that's that old thing of like, it looks like, there's this, it's just a song and you just put it out and it does well, right? No. You need all these people, and there's probably people that I'm forgetting.
That's okay.
That's a good amount.
I'm sure if you thanked everyone, it would
take a while.
Take a while.
Yeah.
Dean, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So great to talk to you.
Good to see you again. Great chat.
And that's it for another episode of Humans of Music. A big thanks to Dean for his time, and thank you for listening. This episode was mixed by Lachlan Mitchell from Parliament Studios in Annandale, and the incidental music and theme song were written and performed by Sam Lockwood. Please remember to subscribe to the Humans of Music podcast so you never miss an episode, or even better, share it amongst your friends and rate and review it. And remember, next time you need to know who wrote a song, who produced a song, who engineered it, who played on it, who sang on it, who did anything on it, head to jaxsta.com for all your official music credit information. Until the next episode of Humans of Music, I'm Rod Yates. Thanks for listening.